Nick was a human engineer, not a soldier, not a hero, just a guy who fixed broken ships. He worked on old cargo ships, mining rigs, and sometimes even warships when he got lucky. But nothing prepared him for the message he got from Central Command. One morning, it said, "Alien vessel in orbit above Terra 6, requesting a human engineer for system repair, pay triple, immediate dispatch." He thought it was a mistake at first. Alien ships were handled by high-tech crews or diplomats, not by someone like him. But the job was real, and the pay was too good to say no. So, within a few hours, he was on a small shuttle heading toward a strange vessel floating in the cold. Dark sky. The ship was huge, black, and shaped like a bird's wing. Its hull shimmered with blue lines that looked like they moved on their own. As he got closer, he felt a chill, not from fear but from the unknown. No one told him what species the ship belonged to, only that the captain was waiting and the ship was badly damaged. When his shuttle docked, the airlock opened slowly. Standing on the other side was a tall alien woman. She had silver-blue skin, long black hair tied back, and golden eyes that didn't blink. She wore light armor made of something that looked like crystal and metal mixed together. She looked strong, calm, and completely serious. "You are the human engineer?" she asked. Yeah," Nick said. "Name's Nick. I am captain. Salary, follow me. The ship is wounded." Nick followed her through the strange corridors of the ship. The walls pulsed slightly, almost like they were alive. The lights shifted colors as they walked, and everything felt too quiet. The ship wasn't empty, but no other crew showed up. Only her. She led him to the engine room, which was larger than any he had seen before. One of the cores was cracked, and the coolant system had failed. Nick looked around, amazed and a little nervous. "You built all this?" he asked. "No," she said. "I fly it. I protect it. Fixing it is your task." He nodded and got to work. The tools he brought were human, not meant for alien tech, but with some adjustments. They worked. He spent hours just understanding the systems. It wasn't like anything he'd touched before. Organic and mechanical at the same time. While he worked, Salari stood nearby, silent. She didn't ask questions, didn't interrupt. She just watched. At first, it made Nick uncomfortable. But after a while, he got used to it. Maybe she was just making sure he didn't break anything. He talked sometimes, just to fill the silence. "This thing's running hot," he said one time, pointing at a glowing coil. "If it goes higher, it might blow." Salari said nothing, but she adjusted a panel, and the coil dimmed. Nick was impressed. "You understand this ship pretty well?" he said. "It is part of me," she replied. That answer stayed in his mind for a while. What did it mean? Part of her? Maybe it was just a cultural thing. Day turned into night, though time didn't mean much on ships. Nick worked long hours, stopping only to rest or eat. Every time he returned to the engine room, she was already there, waiting, always quiet. One time, she brought him a small container with food inside. It wasn't human food, but it smelled all right. "What's this?" he asked. "Meal." "For you," she said. "Thanks," he said, a bit surprised. She nodded and sat nearby, not eating, just watching as he ate. Her golden eyes never left him. Nick didn't know what to make of her. She was cold, serious, and hard to read. But she wasn't rude or unkind. She just seemed distant. Maybe that was normal for her people. One evening, while working on a damaged coolant valve, Nick asked her something. "Why didn't your crew stay to help?" he said. "This is a big job." She paused before answering. "They were sent to protect nearby systems," she said. "I chose to stay." "Alone?" "Not alone now," she said, her voice soft but steady. Nick blinked. It was the first time her voice sounded different, less like a commander and more like someone real. He didn't know what to say, so he just nodded and went back to work. He had no idea that the next day, everything would change. Nick had been working on the alien ship for 5 days now. Each day was quiet, full of complex systems and soft humming sounds that echoed through the metal walls. Captain Sayalari was always nearby, silent like a shadow. She watched as he worked, listened when he talked to himself, and sometimes answered when he asked about the ship's strange designs. Nick had fixed most of the ship's outer systems, but deep inside the engine core, something still felt wrong. The heat levels were rising, and the ship's cooling system was slow to respond. Alien tech was tricky. It didn't follow normal rules. This ship's heat control is acting weird again, Nick muttered, wiping sweat from his forehead. The room felt like a sauna. Solari stepped closer. The core resists balance. It is growing unstable. Then we need to stabilize it fast, he said. Unless you want this place to turn into a space oven. She looked at him calmly. Then, begin. I will assist. Nick opened the control panel and started rewiring the heat circuits. The heat was rising faster than expected. Fans kicked in, but they blew only warm air. The emergency system, which should have released the extra heat into space, wasn't working. Suddenly, the lights flickered. Steam hissed from the walls. Nick jumped back and hit a few switches. It's not venting, he said. This whole section might overheat. I can direct power to other parts of the ship, Sayalari offered. Nick nodded. Do it! As she moved to another panel, Nick realized his shirt was completely soaked. The room was burning up. He pulled off his gloves and jacket, leaving just his undershirt. His face was red from the heat. He looked over at Sayalari, who still stood tall in her full armor. How are you not sweating? He asked. She turned her head slowly. This heat is normal on my world, but you are struggling. Yeah, humans aren't made for saunas, he joked. She seemed to think for a moment. Then she stepped away from the panel. In my culture, she said, heat is a time to reveal one's truth. We remove what is not needed. Nick blinked. What do you mean? Without another word, Sayalari placed her hand on her chest plate and tapped a few glowing symbols. Her armor clicked, hissed, and slid off smoothly, falling in parts to the floor. Underneath, she wore something thin and simple, almost like a second skin, light and breathable. Her silver-blue skin shimmered in the heat, and her hair fell loosely behind her. Nick froze. His mouth opened, then closed. He quickly looked away and held up his hands. Wait! What are you doing? Removing what is not needed, she said calmly. The armor traps heat. I thought you would do the same. Nick's face turned redder than the heat had already made it. Humans don't just... We usually don't remove clothes around others without asking first. Sayalari tilted her head, confused. Why not? Does your kind feel shame for showing skin? No, it's private. We do it when we're alone or in trusted company, usually not during a repair job. Sayalari looked at him quiet for a moment. Then she picked up part of her armor and stepped back, giving him space. I apologize. I meant no harm. It is our way of showing we are not hiding. Nick took a deep breath, trying to cool his thoughts. No harm done. I just wasn't expecting it. They stood in silence, the heat still pressing down on them, but something between them had shifted. Sayalari now looked at him differently, as if testing his reaction. And Nick, while still flustered, started to realize she hadn't done anything wrong in her culture. It was him who didn't understand. Okay, he said finally. I get it. You were being honest. Thanks for trusting me. She nodded once. Your response was respectful. Many would have laughed or stared. I'm not like most, Nick said with a small smile. Now let's fix this oven before we both melt. They returned to the panels. With Solari's help, Nick rerouted. The energy flows, forced the heat release valves open, and brought the temperature down. Slowly, the ship cooled. The lights returned to normal, and the air no longer burned his skin. As they finished the work, Sayalari stepped closer again. "Human," she said, "you learn fast. Not just about machines, but about people, too." Nick smiled. "You're not so bad yourself, Captain." For the first time, she smiled back. After the heat problem was solved, the ship slowly returned to normal. The engines cooled down. The lights stayed steady, and Nick could finally breathe without feeling like he was trapped inside a furnace. Captain Sayalari remained calm through it all, as if the heat never bothered her. But something had changed between them. They were not just captain and engineer now. They had shared something strange, but honest. The next day, Nick returned to the engine core to double-check the repairs. As he opened one of the panels, he noticed a strange pulse coming from deep inside the system. It wasn't dangerous, but it wasn't part of the regular pattern either. "Captain," he said, "there's something odd behind this wall. It looks like a sealed chamber?" Sayalari looked at the panel, her golden eyes narrowing. "You should not have found that," she said softly. "I wasn't trying to," Nick said quickly. "It's just there, some kind of power reading." "I thought maybe a backup system?" She paused, then spoke in a calm voice. "It is not a system. It is a chamber, personal to me." Nick stepped back. "Oh, I didn't mean to invade your space." "You did not," she said. "You followed the path. Now I must explain." She tapped a code into the wall. The panel slid aside, revealing a narrow passage. The air inside was cool and quiet. Sayalari led him down the short hallway until they reached a small circular room. In the center was a low platform surrounded by floating crystals. Soft blue light glowed from the walls. "What is this place?" Nick asked, his voice low. "It is called the Haven," Sayalari said. "A place where we remember who we are." Nick looked around, amazed. It felt peaceful here, like the ship's heart had been hidden behind the noise and metal. He noticed small objects resting on shelves, stones, carved symbols, and one that looked like a locket. "These things?" he asked. "They're yours?" She nodded. "My people do not speak of emotion with words. We use symbols, memories." "That's beautiful," Nick said. "We have photos back on Earth. Things that help us remember, too." Sayalari touched one of the crystals. It floated toward her, glowing brighter. An image appeared in the air. It showed a younger version of her, in armor, standing beside another alien who looked very similar. "My sister," she said quietly. "She fell in battle. This is the only memory I carry." Nick didn't know what to say. He looked at her and then at the image. "I'm sorry." "You honor her by listening," she said. They stood there in silence for a while. Then Sayalari turned to him. "You are different from what I expected, human. I thought your kind rushed through tasks, spoke too loudly, and ignored silence." Nick chuckled. "Some of us do. But I was raised by a quiet father and a patient mother. Guess it stuck." She gave a small nod. "Your presence does not disturb the ship. That is rare." Nick didn't fully understand what that meant, but he smiled anyway. "Glad to hear that." After some time in the Haven, they returned to the engine room. Nick continued his repairs while Sayalari helped him understand some of the more complex energy flows. She explained that her ship wasn't just a machine. It was partly alive. It responded to thought, emotion, and even intent. The reason it failed earlier was because it was unsure of him, but now it trusted him a little more. "Your touch no longer feels like a stranger's," Sayalari said. Nick looked at the glowing panel under his hand. It really did feel smoother now, like the ship was welcoming him. "Maybe it's learning me," he said. "Maybe," she said. "Or maybe you are learning yourself." They worked side by side until the lights dimmed slightly. A signal for rest. Scifi led him to a quiet corner of the ship where a small chamber had been prepared. "This is for you," she said. "Your work has earned rest." Nick looked inside. The bed was simple but soft. A small light glowed in the corner, and warm air moved gently through the space. "Thanks," he said. "I didn't expect comfort on a warship." "Not all ships are for war," she said. "This one is for survival." Nick nodded and stepped inside. As she turned to leave, she paused. "Do not be afraid to ask, Nick. Your questions do not offend." He looked at her. "Thanks, Captain. Same goes for you." She gave him a final glance and walked away, her steps soft on the metal floor. Nick sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the walls. He had come to fix a broken ship. Now he was inside a living vessel, learning from an alien who spoke more with silence than with words. And somehow he didn't feel like an outsider anymore. The next morning, Nick woke up feeling more rested than usual. The soft hum of the alien ship filled the air, almost like it was breathing. The light in the corner of his room had shifted, from soft blue to gentle gold. He stretched, grabbed his tools, and headed back toward the engine core. Scifi was already there, standing still as always, watching the panel. "You rest well?" she asked without turning around. "Yeah," Nick said. "That bed was surprisingly nice, better than my bunk back at the station. This ship offers peace to those who bring no harm," she said. Nick smiled and stepped forward. He looked at the engine readings and noticed something strange. "That can't be right," he said. "Power levels are higher than they should be." Scifi moved beside him. Her eyes scanned the screen. "The ship is pulling energy from the external core, but that system was shut down." Nick leaned closer. "We didn't touch that part. It's not even supposed to activate unless there's a threat." "Something is awakening it," she said, her voice suddenly tense. Nick quickly checked the energy flow. A small, pulsing line led to a sector he hadn't visited yet, one knot, shown in the original schematics she gave him. "There's something in this part of the ship," Nick said, pointing. "But you didn't show me this area before." Scifi didn't answer right away. Then she said, "It is the deep vault. We store old tech there. Forbidden, forgotten." "Could something in there be active?" he asked. "Nothing should be," she said. "But this ship is older than I am. Some memories may not stay silent." They both moved quickly through the halls. Nick followed her into darker parts of the ship. The lights here flickered in strange patterns like they were warning them. The walls felt different, colder, thicker. At the end of a narrow corridor, Scifi stopped and placed her hand on a panel. It scanned her palm and slowly opened a large round door. Inside was a room full of sealed crates and strange machines, covered with cloth and dust. "We do not enter here unless necessary," she said. "Today's necessary," Nick replied. They stepped inside. The pulsing energy grew louder. One of the crates in the far corner had a soft red glow underneath the cover. Nick walked toward it and gently lifted the cloth. Beneath it was a strange object, a metal sphere covered in moving lines and symbols. "What is this thing?" he asked. Scifi's face changed. She looked almost afraid. "That is an ancient beacon," she whispered. "It calls others of our kind when war is near." "Why is it waking up now?" Nick asked. "I do not know," she said. "But if it sends a signal, others will come, and they will not be kind." Nick knelt beside it. "Can I shut it down?" "Maybe," Scifi said. "But it may not listen. This tech is old, stubborn." Nick pulled out his toolkit. "Then I'll try the old-fashioned way." He opened a small panel on the sphere and saw its internal systems. They looked damaged, unstable, like it had been waiting a long time for any sign of movement. He worked carefully, trying to disconnect it without triggering anything. As he worked, Scifi stood watch. If this beacon wakes completely, she said, my people will think we are calling for war. Nick glanced at her. And if they come here, they will see you, and they will strike. Nick didn't stop working. Then we better stop this thing before that happens. It took him nearly an hour, but at last, the pulsing lights inside the sphere dimmed, the glow faded, and the energy trail vanished from the ship's systems. It's done, he said, wiping his hands. It won't call anyone now. Sailari let out a breath, not fear, but relief. You saved us from being found, she said. Again. Nick stood up and smiled. Maybe this ship likes me now. She looked at him with soft eyes. Or maybe I do. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The silence was warm this time, not awkward. Then Sailari reached out and handed him a small crystal. What's this? He asked. A memory, she said, of this day. Keep it. Nick looked down at the glowing stone in his hand. It felt warm, almost alive. Thanks, he said. I'll take care of it. They left the vault together, walking side by side. The ship behind them felt quieter, like it had gone back to sleep. But something between them had awakened, and it was not dangerous. After the danger of the ancient beacon was stopped, Nick felt the ship was a little less cold. The heavy silence that had filled the hall started to lift. Captain Sailari seemed more relaxed, and Nick noticed she looked at him differently now, less like a strict commander and more like someone who trusted him. One evening, after they finished checking the engines, Sailari invited Nick to join her, in a quiet room near the observation deck. The walls were smooth glass, showing stars and distant planets outside. It was peaceful, and Nick could see why she spent time here. You saved the ship, she said softly, looking at the stars. I owe you more than repairs. Nick shrugged. Just doing my job. No, she said. It is more than that. You faced what others feared. Nick looked at her, curious. What do you mean? She took a slow breath. My people are warriors. We hide our feelings. We fight. But when we face fear, we become silent. To show strength. Nick nodded. Sounds lonely. It is, Sailari admitted. When my sister died, I shut away my heart. I learned to survive. To protect. Nick thought about his own losses, family he never met, friends who left him behind. Sometimes silence can break us. Sailari turned to him, her eyes shining. You speak with honesty. It is rare among humans. I learned that being honest helps people trust each other, Nick said. She smiled, a gentle curve that lit her face. Then you have earned trust, not just from me, but from this ship. Nick felt warmth inside. Thank you. For a moment, they both just watched the stars, sharing a quiet peace. Then Sailari spoke again. There is something I want to show you. She led Nick down a narrow hallway to a small chamber. Inside were several alien artifacts, tools, decorations, and a suit of armor unlike any Nick had seen before. It was made of light metal and crystals that shimmered faintly. This was my mother's armor, Sailari explained. She was a great way, Rior. This suit represents her courage and duty. Nick reached out to touch the armor. It's beautiful. It is more than beauty, Sailari said. It holds memories. When I wear it, I feel her strength. Nick smiled. Kind of like a human keeps a family photo or heirloom, she nodded. Yes, but sometimes memories also bring pain. Nick looked at her carefully. Do you want to talk about it? Sailari hesitated. Long ago, my world was attacked. Many were lost, my family included. Since then, I wear this armor to remind me to protect others, even if it means hiding my true self. Nick's heart went out to her. You don't have to hide around me. I am not used to trust, she said softly, but you have changed that. Nick took a step closer. I'm glad. Sailari's eyes met his. There is more. She reached into a small box and pulled out a delicate necklace with a glowing crystal pendant. "This was my sister's gift to me," she said. "She wanted me to have hope, even in darkness." Nick carefully took the necklace. It felt warm and alive in his hands. "Thank you for sharing this," he said. "It means a lot." "Keep it," Sayalari said, "for when you feel lost, like I once was." Nick smiled, feeling a bond stronger than words. From that night on, Nick and Sayalari spent more time together. She taught him about her people's ways, their values of honor, courage, and silence. He shared stories of Earth, of family dinners, laughter, and simple moments of peace. One day, Nick got injured while fixing a power conduit. Celery was there immediately. She used a healing device unfamiliar to him. The device glowed softly as she pressed it to his arm. "This will help," she said. Nick winced but relaxed under her care. "Thanks." "You are important," she said quietly. "To me, and to this ship." Nick looked at her surprised. "I'm just a mechanic." "No," she said firmly. "You are more." The ship hummed around them, as if it agreed. The days passed quickly, and Nick worked harder than ever. The alien ship was almost fully repaired, and the strange humming that filled the halls was steady and calm. Captain Cialari was by his side, often now, guiding him through the final tests and helping him understand the complex systems better than any manual could. Nick noticed the small changes in her behavior. She smiled more, and her golden eyes held a softness that was new. The distance between them had shrunk, replaced by a quiet friendship built on respect and trust. One afternoon, as Nick adjusted a delicate power conduit near the ship's main engine, he felt a sudden sharp pain in his side. He stumbled and dropped his tools. "Are you all right?" Celari asked immediately, rushing to his side. "Yeah," Nick said, wincing. "Just a cramp or something." She didn't believe him. She gently touched his side where the pain was, her hands warm and steady. "You must rest." Nick shook his head. "No time. We have to finish this." Sayalari stood up and looked at him seriously. "Your health is part of the ship's strength. You are not alone in this." Nick looked into her eyes and saw no room for argument. He nodded slowly and allowed her to help him to a nearby seat. As he rested, Celari brought a small healing device. It was unlike anything Nick had seen before, a smooth orb that glowed with soft blue light. "This will ease your pain," she said, placing it gently on his side. Nick felt a warm sensation spread through his body. The pain faded quickly. "Wow," he said, amazed. "That's incredible." "Your body will heal faster with care," she said softly. For a moment they sat in silence, the soft hum of the ship wrapping around them like a blanket. Then Sayalari spoke quietly. "Nick, you have done more than repair my ship. You have repaired a part of me that was broken." Nick felt his heart beat faster. "I'm just a mechanic." "No," she said firmly. "You are a friend, someone I can trust." Nick smiled, feeling something new inside him. It was warmth, hope, and maybe something more. The next day, the final repairs were complete. Nick ran tests, checked systems, and watched the ship respond perfectly to commands. The engines glowed softly, and the life support was stable. The alien ship was ready to fly again. Sayalari approached him with a rare smile. "Thank you, Nick. You have saved not just my ship, but my mission." Nick felt proud. "It was an honor, Captain." She paused, then said, "There is something else." Nick looked curious. "I wish for you to stay, not as an engineer, but as my ally." Nick's eyes widened. "Stay? You mean on this ship?" "Yes," she said. "You understand more than anyone. Your heart is strong. You belong here." Nick thought of his life back on Earth, The quiet station, the simple routines. Then he looked at Sayalari, the ship, and the stars outside the windows. "I never thought I'd feel at home on an alien ship," he said. "Home is where trust grows," Sayalari replied. Nick smiled and nodded. "Then I will stay. With you." Sayalari's eyes shone with happiness. "Then we fly together." As the ship prepared to leave orbit, Nick looked out at the stars. The universe was vast and unknown, but with Sayalari beside him, it felt like a new beginning. The alien ship hummed with life, ready to face the challenges ahead. Nick knew his journey was just starting, and this time, he was not alone. The alien ship hummed softly as it left the orbit of Terra 6. Nick stood beside Captain Sayalari on the observation deck, watching the stars stretch and shine beyond the thick glass. The endless darkness of space was beautiful, but Nick felt something more, a quiet excitement for what was to come. "Where are we headed?" Nick asked. Sayalari looked at him, her golden eyes shining. "To the heart of Ilthari space, to deliver a message, and to show that trust can cross worlds." Nick nodded. He had never imagined he would be part of something so important. Just weeks ago, he was a simple engineer, fixing broken machines. Now he was a partner in a mission that could change the future. As they traveled, Nick and Sayalari grew closer. They learned from each other's worlds, their hopes, fears, and dreams. Nick showed her how humans found joy in small things: music, stories, laughter. Sayalari shared the strength of her people, their honor, courage, and silent loyalty. One night, Nick asked Sayalari about the day she removed her armor during the heat crisis. "Why did you trust me then?" he asked. She smiled softly. "Because you did not look away. You accepted my truth." Nick looked down, feeling shy. "I just didn't want to offend." "You honored me by seeing beyond armor," she said. Nick's heart warmed. He realized that trust was the strongest connection between beings, no matter the species. Their journey was not without challenges. In uncharted space, they faced strange storms and silent dangers. The ship's ancient systems tested their skills and patience, but together, they overcame every obstacle. One day, an urgent message came through the ship's comms. An alien fleet had detected their presence and demanded identification. "This is Captain Sayalari of the Ilthari Empire," she answered firmly. "We carry no threat. This human is my trusted ally." The fleet paused, unsure how to respond. After tense moments, they allowed passage, surprised by the bond between human and alien. Nick watched Sayalari handle the situation with calm strength. He was proud to stand beside her. Finally, they reached the Ilthari homeworld, a vast planet of icy mountains and glowing cities. The ship landed in a great port where leaders and warriors gathered to hear their message. Sayalari spoke with honor, telling the story of the damaged ship, the human engineer's skill, and the trust they had built. The leaders listened, moved by the tale. They saw that unity between different peoples was possible. They agreed to open new channels of peace and cooperation. Nick felt tears in his eyes. From a lonely repair job to a mission of hope, his life had changed forever. After the ceremony, Sayalari turned to Nick. "Will you stay with us?" she asked. "Help us build a future together?" Nick smiled widely. "Yes, I want to be part of this new world." They stood together on the snowy plains, the stars bright above. The alien ship stood strong, a symbol of friendship and courage. Nick knew that this was only the beginning. No matter how far from home he was, he had found a new family and a new purpose.